What's going on, guys? We are here again. We are the Football Fanatics. Again, I want to show off our new banner we got. We just got it yesterday. Looks amazing. We got Ryan. We got James. We got Stanley the Belaroo. And then you got me, Eric. We also got these new mugs. Fantastic.
Yep.
There you go. Hypothetical. Today we are going to be going over the NFC South. Stanley's favorite division. So, we are going to first go over the Falcons. And I'm going to go to James first.
Alright, so...
Super Bowl champ. Oh, no.
What?
Just kidding. Oh, my bad.
Yeah, because they did win the Super Bowl, right?
Oh,
They did.
yeah.
They did. Yeah.
28 to
Anyhow.
Yikes. But, alright, even before that collapse, I think they were the most complete team. I think they were more complete than the Patriots, not including the offseason, obviously when they get Cooks and Dwayne Allen and all them. But, I mean, they had a great offense with Matt Ryan, Tevin Coleman. I mean, some teams don't even have one good running back. They have two with Freeman and Coleman. I mean, three great wide receivers. You got Turbo. You got Julio Jones. You got
How do you not
Mohamed
remember
Sanu.
Julio?
I don't even know. But, all right, and then even Austin Hooper's a solid tight end with a great O-line.
Him and
Alex
Hunter
Mack.
Henry but were good last year. Young tight ends.
I mean, great O-line. Alex Mack was a huge addition last year. And then they have great rookies, Deion Jones, Keanu Neal. And, I mean, they added two great players in Don Poe through free agency and Tack McKinley. I mean, they struggled in the second half to hit Brady. That's why the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history was what it is. So they got great pass rush and their most complete team in the NFL. They go 13-3.
All right. So, obviously, that'd be winning the division.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to Stanley next. How do you feel on the Falcons?
I have them winning the division at 12-4. I mean, they gain defense. That's great for them. They got more pass rush. The division isn't that good. I mean, most of the division doesn't have a defense besides them. They got a defense. No one else really has a defense so far. So they're going to sweep the division probably. And I can only see them. I mean, they're going to versus Patriots again. I see them losing that game and going to the Super Bowl again. It's a bold one, but I see them going through the NFC like nothing. Because, I mean, the team is all around great. I mean, it's just all around good. I mean, Julio Jones was mossing people throughout the season. Why can't he do it again? They're just overall a great team, and they'll go far with that team.
All right, so if I was to ask any team in the NFC, from like all of them that you can pick, who is the closest to them? Because you said they were going to go sweep through the NFC and make it to the Super Bowl. Do you think, what would be your closest team to them that could possibly fight with them in the
That's
conference?
not the 49ers.
Well, no, the 49ers would get fucking wrecked. Probably the Packers.
You think the Packers?
Because the
are gonna
Packers
fight?
their offense is insane, and Aaron Rodgers has like 20,000 minutes in the pocket. So, the team, I think the Packers could do it, but they just got to get rid of Clay Matthews and add someone better.
I agree.
All right. So, Buck, how do you feel on the Falcons this year?
You know, I think that after a Super Bowl loss last year, I don't think they'll be like the Panthers who, you know, were terrible last year after a big Super Bowl loss. I think the Falcons are going to be better than last year, motivated because they're, you know, Dan Quinn's a great coach to me, and he's a coach that's not going to let what Ron Rivera let happen to the Panthers. He's a coach that's going to bring his guys back, and that, like I said, that team got better. The Panthers from their Super Bowl to last year got worse with the loss of Josh Norman, and you can say what you want, but Josh Norman's a great corner, and you know, they lost him. That's the Panthers. The Falcons, they went out and added Tack McKinley and Poe. Like you said, you know, he's not going to get to Tom Brady or any quarterback, really. He's not a great sack machine, but he disrupts that offensive line, making your outside rushers. They have a great pass rush from the outside right now that are going to be able to get to Tom Brady or whatever quarterback it is. So Poe is a great addition to that. And I really love their defense. I love their offense. They're a great team, and I could see them in the Super Bowl next year. I got them 13-3 just like James.
All right, so we have three people right now who all agree on that the Falcons will win the division, and now we will have a fourth. I believe they will also go 12-4. I agree with Stanley. This team is fantastic. It is all around good. You cannot really find a part of this team that is bad. I mean, Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu, Taylor Gabriel. I mean, this team, these wide receivers are good. Their O-line's good. Their quarterback's good. There's not really a part of this team that you can really knock for being, like, bad. I love their corners. Alford, I thought that pick six in the Super Bowl was fantastic. That was a great play.
A lot of people don't realize they didn't even have their best in Desmond Trufant in that game. I mean, with him, it could be a whole different story. But
I mean, Alford played out of his mind that game, and I believe that was more to how good Alford can be and how he will be this year than a fluke performance. So, to me, if you have that Alford playing all year, I mean, this team is going to be insane. And, I mean, I don't know if I'm on board with Stanley where they'll just tear through the NFC. I mean, there's a few teams I can see who compete with them, come the Giants, the Cowboys, the Packers, to name a few. But I believe this team does have a good shot to go back to the Super Bowl this year. So, moving on.
And it's funny, though. He has them 12-4, and he says they're going to go right through the NFC. We have them at 13-3, and we're not saying they're going to right through the NFC. I mean,
just anything can happen in playoff football. I mean, we've seen some big upsets.
True. So, going on from them, I want to go to the Buccaneers. I'm gonna start with Buck this time.
Okay. I really like what they did in this offseason. I have them making the wild card and making the playoffs. I actually have them and the Giants making the wild card. The Buccaneers, I think, will go 10-6. I really, really like the addition of Deshaun Jackson. Not so much for just signing Deshaun Jackson, as good as he is, but I really like what that does for Mike Evans. Mike Evans will be a stud next year. He'll be even better than he was this year with a stronger number 2. It's not Adam Humphries, okay? They got Deshaun Jackson, who I think's really underused. I think with the Redskins, who's really underused. I think that with Jameis Winston there, they'll be able to utilize him better than they were in Washington with Pierre Garçon and Jamison Crowder last year. But this year, he'll be a deep threat. I think he can have like 12, 13 touchdowns this year. That may be a little bold, but him and Mike Evans are going to be big. I think, at the start, you could kind of see him struggle a little bit in a new offense, but by the end of the year, I say he's going to be huge. And on that defensive side, I think their defense is pretty good. I think it'll hold up for itself. I definitely think the offense is the key part of that team, but I do think the defense will hold up enough where they can go 10-6 this year.
All right, I'm going to go next because Jameis Winston is my fantasy quarterback, so that's why I'm going next. I do love the addition of Deshaun Jackson. I think it is great for them. And a lot of people are saying the addition of Deshaun Jackson is going to affect Mike Evans in a negative way. Like, he's not going to get enough targets. The target's going to start going to Deshaun Jackson. I don't believe that. I think he will get more quality targets because of the fact that now Deshaun Jackson can blow teams over the top. I mean, you can't double Evans anymore. You have to have someone on Deshaun, and you're going to have someone on O.J. Howard. You're going to have someone on Adam Humphries, so you can only really play Mike Evans one-on-one. Maybe double them at some points, but you can't do that all the game during the entire game. So to me, this helps out Mike Evans a lot. Their O-line is my only question mark. They're not the greatest, and the fact that Doug Martin is out for the first 4 games does kind of hurt them a little bit. So I do have them going 9-7 here. I don't know if I have them making the playoffs yet or not. You'll see that in a different video. But yeah, they're an all-around good team, I think. The O-line is my only part right now where I'm a little suspect on, and the fact that Doug Martin is out does kind of notch him a little bit for me. I mean, not to say that I don't like Jaquez Rogers or Charles Sims, but I think I'd like to see him a lot better that if Doug Martin were to play all 17 or 16, whatever it is. Next, we're going to go to James.
I have them also going 9-7, and I love their offense. I think they will stumble without Doug Martin a little bit. I mean, because, like you're saying, Sims and Rodgers are good, but they're not the complete back like Martin is. Like, we've seen him, I believe it was his rookie year. He had like 12 or 1,300 yards, but the weak point for me is their cornerbacks. I mean, they do have Brent Grimes, who's a very solid number 1. And Vernon Hargreaves, a rookie. I mean, he's still unproven. He was all right last year, but I would have been a big fan of them trading up and grabbing like a Marshawn Lattimore. I feel like that would have given them 2 really solid corners, and that could have definitely given them 1 or 2 extra wins. But I love their offense. I mean, Mike Evans, you could argue he'd be the best corner or wide receiver in the league. I mean, you look what he did against some top 2 corners. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns on Richard Sherman, and he had a touchdown and like 60 yards against Pat Pete. I mean, great offense, and they will eventually overtake the Falcons.
I do agree with the Mike Evans thing. I think he doesn't get enough credit. When OBJ was in that draft, I think everybody goes with the OBJ hype. I believe Mike Evans is just as good as OBJ.
If not better at this
Yeah,
point.
you can really debate him in the top 3, top 5 area. I really do like Mike Evans. He's one of my top favorite wide receivers. I do have a question for you, James. Do you think O.J. Howard was the right pick for this team? They have Cameron Brate, who was a good tight end. He was really good last year for them. He came onto the scene. He kind of broke out for them, really helped them out in a few games. Do you think O.J. Howard was the right pick?
Honestly, I don't. I mean, Cameron Brate was huge for them last year. Him and Jameis clearly had a lot of chemistry, and I think bringing in Howard is going to interfere with that a little bit. And really, their problem was defense, mostly in the DBs. I mean, I would have loved them to grab a Malik Hooker or trade up and get Jamal Adams or a Marshawn Lattimore. I think that would have really solidified them as a playoff team. But O.J. Howard will still be a great player. I mean, but it's not what they really needed.
Just to get another look, I think it was a great pick for Buccaneers fans. And the Buccaneers, I think you go best overall player there. And are we going to hate on the Packers for having 3 good tight ends? Are we going to hate on the Giants for having, 4 really good weapons and they didn't go defense when they did? I mean, we're not hating the Patriots. Are we going to hate on them for having all those good weapons and trading for, what's his face? Brandon Cooks, yeah, sorry. And we don't hate on them. I mean, I think you can run a 2 tight end offense if necessary, and you just give Jameis all the weapons you can. That's just my take on that.
But, well, the Bucs already had 3 good wide receivers. They even drafted one in that, who's probably number 3, Chris Godwin from Penn State, Deshaun, and Mike Evans. I didn't think it was a huge need. But.
So 2 different takes on the O.J. Howard pick. We're going to move on to Stanley. How do you feel on the Bucs this year?
I feel like they're going to be 9-7. I mean, their team's there. It's just their defense isn't. I mean, Mike Evans and Deshaun Jackson, that's going to be a huge thing. I mean, I would easily take Mike Evans over OBJ because Mike Evans can keep his cool, destroy defenses, and he's physical. OBJ cries over everything, so I don't want him on my team. But, I mean, Jameis Winston, Deshaun Jackson, you'll see that a lot over the top this year. You'll see Mike Evans do like a fade out or something, then Deshaun will do a hitch and go or something. And you'll see that happen all the time. And, I mean, the addition of O.J. Howard, I think it was good because you could put 2 tight ends and have them block and go. I mean, that's going to help them. I mean, the offensive line isn't good. So you put 2 tight ends there and have them block. That's going to help Jameis Winston have time and throw it downfield to his wide receivers. So, I mean, the team's there, but in the future they'll do better. So, I mean, their running back, Doug Martin, how much time has he seen by hurting his career? Like 3?
A couple seasons.
I mean, I had him in fantasy, and he kind of went downhill, so I kind of never liked him because of that. I mean, him missing the first 4 games hurts the team. They don't have a true run game. I mean, Charles Sims is there, but he's not really there.
He can only carry you so far.
Yeah. I mean, Doug Martin will come back and he'll probably get injured, most likely, and then they're just going to need to draft a better running back and probably some DBs to help him out in their career.
All right, so that was a good take on the Bucs. I think we covered them pretty well. Any other things on the Bucs? Nothing? All right, so we're going to move on to the Saints. I'm going to go with Stanley first since he loves Drew Brees.
Drew Brees is insane. Called it last year. He would have 5,000 yards. He had over 5,000 yards. The dude is the only QB, I think, to have 3 or 4 5,000 yard seasons. That is just absolutely insane, especially with the team he has. I mean, his defense, even now, isn't that good. If they worked on the defense, I can see him going to the Super Bowl. But Drew Brees can't carry the team so far. It's like Aaron Rodgers can carry the team because he has somewhat of a defense. The Saints don't have a defense. I mean, Kenny Vaccaro, he's young, but he's not that good to carry the defense by himself. I mean, the wide receivers that the Saints have now are insane. I mean, Michael Thomas is going to have an insane year. It's just, with the addition to Adrian Peterson, that thing makes the team go 8-8. They're just average now. But Drew Brees and Adrian Peterson will destroy defenses, but their defense will also get destroyed. That's how come they have to put up 30-plus points a game just to stay with the other team.
So you believe that the Saints are going to be in a lot of shootouts this year because their defense isn't that good, but you think their offense can compete with high-end defenses?
Yeah. I feel like Drew Brees can torch any team, honestly. Because, I mean, he's just... Might just be me because I'm biased to Drew Brees because the dude's, honestly, I think, top 5, maybe top 2 with all of his stats. If you look at stats, he just obliterates anything. I mean, he might not have all the Super Bowls, but the stats are there.
Stats-wise,
he's insane. I would I'd put money on it that he has another 5,000 plus yard season.
All right, we're gonna move on to James on the Saints.
This team, it's tough because they had a great story after Hurricane Katrina, coming back, winning a Super Bowl, beating Peyton Manning. But I was watching a game last year when they were playing the Falcons, and it was kind of depressing, honestly, because you see Drew Brees, you go out there, he scores, then in Atlanta, 2 minutes they score again.
Mm-hmm.
The defense is on the field. For a while. I mean, they scored 35 points and they lost by 10 points. I mean, just to see that the ownership not helping him out at all, it's kind of disgusting, honestly. They should honestly think about trading him because they're really wasting his prime. If he had a good defense, okay, let's just say he had like Seattle's defense, he'd probably have as many rings as Tom Brady. I mean, because you look, that offense would be scoring 35 points a game and letting up 10 or 15. I mean, they did add some pieces, Marshawn Lattimore. They do have Kenny Vaccaro. Didn't they add Teo?
They did that.
Yeah,
I mean,
Teo.
players like that, but it's not going to really make it a lot better. I mean, you see a little improvement, but not much.
All right, Buck, how do you feel about the Saints this year?
Basically, the summary of it in few words, and I'll talk about it, but draft defense is 2 words that I keep talking about with the Saints. They don't seem to do it. They drafted an offensive lineman in the first round, and they don't draft defense. I mean, offensive line was good already, and they just don't draft defense. Okay, I know Jari Evans went to the Packers, and you lost somebody there, but just draft defense. The offensive line can live with Drew Brees back there. Okay, you can have one missing hole. It's not going to do this. It's not going to do that much damage to you. If you draft the defense, I know you got Marshawn Lattimore, but spend all your draft picks on defense for that matter.
Kevin King, too.
Exactly.
I mean, 2 good corners.
And Marshawn Lattimore's good. He is good. I like Marshawn Lattimore, but the defense was where that team came crashing down. And he talks about this year how they're going to be a lot of shootouts. I agree with that because they aren't drafting defense. You could have gone with more defense in later rounds, and they're drafting running backs. And, it's just, I don't see what they're trying to do there. I think, you fire that GM or whoever's making these draft picks a lot of times. You haven't made that many great moves in the past. I do think a while ago, I think they won that Jimmy Graham trade in the end, though. Yeah. But, that was a good move. It turned out to be. But just recently, they haven't done anything. And like he said, you're wasting Drew Brees right now. I mean, I wouldn't say he's in his prime like you would. I mean, he's still great.
They did waste his prime. I mean,
they did waste his prime.
Only 1 Super Bowl.
And I think in a future videos, we could almost debate Marcus Mariota and Jameis Winston. We could debate Drew Brees and Tom Brady. I think in future videos, we can do those kind of debate things there. Debating quarterbacks and just positions and stuff like that. So, I think that'd be a fun video to do. And I think that we could, at the end of the day, say Drew Brees and Tom Brady are very similar in stats and stuff. Drew Brees is a great quarterback, and they did waste his prime. And I think that, like he said, he'll have a lot of touchdowns this year, maybe over 5,000 passing yards this year, but they're not going to win a lot of games. I have them going 7-9 this year, which may still be even a little generous. But they did show me some glimpses last year. I'd love the trade of Brandon Cooks. Get him out of there. You can focus on Mike Thomas now, and I love him. He's a beast. And other guys like Willie Snead and Brandon Coleman's still there.
Ted Ginn, too.
Ted Ginn, yep. So you got weapons there that Drew Brees, but all the weapons in the world still won't win with that defense.
Right.
I got one thing to add. It's like, if they get rid of Sean Payton, Drew Brees goes with them because their connection is close.
Mm-hmm.
So once them two leave, the Saints are going downhill because they're practically the foundation of that team. Because it's like, if I was an NFL player and I had an offer from the Saints and let's say the Chargers, and Sean Payton was still there and Drew Brees wasn't, I'd go there. But like, say Drew Brees was at San Diego still, and I don't know how this would happen, I'd take Sean Payton because he's the coach and he practically knew Drew Brees how he was, so he trained us like he trained Drew Brees.
So you like Sean Payton more than you do Drew Brees?
I feel like them two together make the team. But I mean, if I had a choice, it'd be Sean Payton because he learned from Drew Brees and Drew Brees learned from him. So it's like they feed off each other. But I don't see the Saints doing anything without them two.
And the financial management of the team's not great. you'd think like with a team like they are on the defense and offense, you'd think they'd have so much salary, right? Because they're not a great team. But you look at their salary; they're one of the lowest salary. Like they don't have much salary to use at all.
Wasn't Max
So-
Unger's contract though a lot? They took on a big contract.
I mean, it's just some of the players they're paying shouldn't be getting paid that much. I'm saying.
Well, I just have one thing to say too. I mean, Tom Brady, arguably, is the best quarterback in the league, and he takes smaller contracts to help, so the teams can help build their defense, build their offense. I think if Drew Brees is really serious about winning, he should do it too. I mean, he is one of the highest paid. He's making like 22, 23 million a year. I mean, like, do what Tom Brady did. Take 12 million a year, so you can spend that extra 10 million on a couple cornerbacks or defensive backs, linebackers, something like that. But
$10 million goes a long way, even if you take that pay cut. So.
All right, so now my take on the Saints. I'm going 8-8. I do not have them making the playoffs. Basically, same thing all of them said. The defense is their bad point. I mean, I wish they would invest more in the defense to help out Drew Brees. I love Drew Brees. I loved him when I was a Chargers fan. Even when he left, I still loved him. I loved watching him win his Super Bowl. I mean, he's an all-around great quarterback. His stats are up there with the best of all time. If you just were able to give him a better defense, I agree with James. He'd probably have more Super Bowls than he has right now. And I hate watching them waste Drew Brees. I mean, it's basically like watching the Dolphins when they wasted Dan Marino. I mean, Dan Marino,
no Super Bowls.
no Super Bowls for him. But I mean, I love their first round pick. They definitely needed a corner, so that was a great pick. I wish that with what they had the 32nd pick.
32nd pick, yeah.
They should have gotten Kevin King there.
Or Buda Baker.
Or Buda Baker.
I mean,
one
something
of the
like
two.
that.
That would have been great for that team. Or at least just go like anything on the defense. I hate seeing them waste Drew Brees. That's all I'm gonna say on it. They basically said everything I wanted to say. So we're gonna move on to the Panthers, which I will go first because I love Cam Newton. I've loved him forever. When he came in the league, I thought he was awesome. I loved him at Auburn. I still like him. When they went 15-1, I thought that was more close to the real Cam Newton than what was last year. I think they need to, and what they did improve his O-line a little bit, and I think they need to improve it a little bit more for Cam Newton to get back to that essence of being amazing. But I also want them to get a little bit better. I get that they got Christian McCaffrey and Curtis Samuel, and that helps them out. But I would like them to replace Devin Funchess. I don't think Funchess is going to ever be anything. He has shown some flashes at times, but he's also shown flashes at times that he's just a total bust. I would like them to, say next year's draft, go out and get a true number 2 wide receiver. I like Kelvin Benjamin. He needs to lose some pounds. He's hitting that Eddie Lacy area where he packed on some pounds. He needs to slim down a little bit. But if they can go and get a true number 2 wide receiver, keep Curtis Samuel at the 3, and use Christian McCaffrey and Jonathan Stewart as his two good, like, two-headed dragon at running back. Even if you can put Christian McCaffrey at slot if you really need him to. It's a good offense. They could literally make this offense into, like, a college-esque offense. I mean, they got so many, like, moving parts in this offense. It could be pretty good. The defense is decent, I would say. Their cornerbacks need a lot of help. I believe. I love Luke Kuechly. I love Thomas Davis, but this defense does need a little help, and I do believe that they will be the worst team in this division. Sadly, at 7-9. I'm going to go on to Stanley next. How do you feel about the Panthers?
I think they're going downhill. I have them at 6-10, last in the division, due to the fact that since Josh Norman left, they imploded. Their cornerbacks didn't know what to do. Josh Norman solidified at that defense. I mean, Luke Kuechly was there, Thomas Davis was there. They're insane. But Luke Kuechly, concussions are his weakness right now. How much concussions can you take until you're kicked out of the game or forced out? I mean, you can't take that much beating on your head. I mean, I'm just speaking from experience. I mean, I already stutter words sometimes because of my concussions, and that dude's got like 20,000. Not really that much, but hypothetical. He can't take a beating like that. And Cam Newton, if you watch videos, outside rush gets to him, and they close in on him, and he's getting headshotted after headshotted, which should be a flag, but since he's like huge and he's built, the refs think he's gonna be able to take it. But when a 6'3" linebacker comes running at you full speed and hits you in the head, that's gonna do some damage on you. I mean, it affects your game when you know you got pressure coming in and hitting you. I mean, look at Tom Brady. Pressure makes him horrible. So I mean, their offensive line is getting better, but it's still not going to help them out, especially when their wide receivers won't help their QB get, like, they don't run around getting open. They kind of just see him getting hit and they kind of just stop and look at it and watch. I see him 6-10. I don't see him doing much. I just see him decreasing without the cornerbacks.
All right, James, how do you feel on the Panthers?
I mean, I think they're a very average team. I have them going 8-8, so like tied with the Saints, if you want to say, for third place in the division. And I mean, like everyone was saying before, Josh Norman killed them, and they didn't like really capitalize on it. I mean, they drafted a corner, I think last year, James Bradbury.
Yep.
I mean, he played decent at the end of the year, but
When it didn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. When it didn't matter. I mean, also like everybody was saying, Cam Newton's going to get killed out there. I mean, they finally released Michael Orr, which was good because he was horrible. They still have Mike Remmers, who got destroyed by Von Miller in that Super Bowl. And also, I mean, I really think now that teams have a lot of tape on Cam, I think he's going to start slowly declining. I mean, he was never really a great thrower of the football. But he really relied that year when they were 15-1. He would do a lot of read options or little dump outs. But now teams that they know that are going to play contain on him and keep him in the pocket and force him to throw the ball. And you saw he did struggle last year. I mean, he only had 19 touchdowns, like 14 picks. I mean, if they can get him some help, I feel like they will do better in the future. But they're an 8-8 team right now.
All right, Ron, I'll go to you.
You know, I agree with both of them. I have my record the same as James's, 8-8, and I think this past year what we saw in Cam Newton was decline, and I think the year before, really what that season was based off of was kind of like a happy-go-lucky Cam Newton. It seemed like every pass he was making, no matter how hard it was just working out for him. 1 year later, not so much. People are reading these plays. They read the playbooks, or not the playbook, but they read the film and stuff like that. So, watch film, I should say. But just, he was worrying too much about his ego, and he was thinking about, I feel like every play, he was almost thinking in his head, how hard am I going to get hit this time? And that made him nervous, and he was just throwing balls that he shouldn't have been, because everyone was out to kill him for the season before of how much of an ego, and I didn't like him the season before as much. So just how cocky he was and whatnot. So everybody was going after him, trying to hit him hard, and he was worried about that. So again, I think that the Cam Newton, I think he'll be better this year than he was last year. He's not coming off a big Super Bowl loss, and obviously that'll be in the back of his head forever. But again, I just think that I think he'll have a better season this year. I think he's got I mean, they didn't do much in this offseason. He didn't get much help this offseason, but again, I think he'll still be better this year than last season.
Just saying, I mean, that Super Bowl had to have killed him. Because you can tell he was wicked happy during the Super Bowl, and then next season.
He's coming off an MVP.
Well, you look at him the game before when they destroyed Arizona. He was all happy taking selfies on the sideline. And you could just see like the distraught look on his face when Von Miller strip sacked, or was it? No, Von Miller strip sacked him, and Malik Jackson recovered in the end zone. You just saw that he was like, he didn't even know what was going on, and it really hurt him.
It destroyed him.
It hurt the Arizona Cardinals too. I mean, you look at them; those were the top two teams in the NFC, and they were two of the worst teams the next year. I mean,
I think the thing with Cam was he was so happy going to that game. He had never been hit like that before. Before that game, he hadn't felt that that year. He had not felt pressure like that. And they were just laying the hits on him. He wasn't used to it, and that's what threw him off. I mean, you watch that game. It was like almost after every throw, he was on the ground trying to get up. And, I mean, there was points when the offensive lineman had to pick him up off the ground. I mean, he just wasn't used to it. And that's why at the end of almost the end of the game, he has that strip, and people say he didn't dive for the ball. Why would you want to? You've been taking hit after hit after hit after hit. The game's basically almost over. You go and get that ball, you risk hurting your shoulder. I mean, I get it's the Super Bowl. I get it's the point. I mean, it's the game of all games. You want that Super Bowl. That game had already been lost. I don't care what you say. That game had already been lost. There was no way they were coming back. There was no need. I mean, there was no need for him to dive for that ball. He had already taken so much punishment in that game. And then this next year comes, he takes more and more punishment.
Mhm.
I mean, there were some hits out there that I'm watching. I'm like, holy crap!
Wow.
And I see no flags. I saw no flags get thrown, and it was an obvious helmet-to-helmet contact. I was
And an
shocked.
embarrassing week 1 for them too.
Yeah,
Against a
Totally
Trevor
embarrassing.
Simeon-led team.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally embarrassing.
Also, just to talk about Cam Newton's ego, I think it really destroyed him because him and Von Miller in that 2011 draft were like, could have been 1-2. You could have swapped them, and for him to get picked before Von Miller, but for Von Miller to come in there and dominate them like that, I think that really hurt him. And also, Eric, just to ask you, you said that they needed a number 2 wide receiver. Do you think they should look at like an Anquan Bolden, a James Jones, or a cap casualty like Brian Quick or something like that?
I don't know about James Jones or Brian Quick. I'd like to see Anquan. Anquan would be kind of cool. He'd give him a nice red zone
He'd
threat.
help Kelvin Benjamin.
Yeah, I mean, Anquan Bolden would be a cool little like bring in. I mean, he's a good red zone threat. I would have rather them like maybe look at Eric Decker and Jimmy Macklin when they were out there. That'd have been kind of cool to see them try to bring in one of them. I get that their cap's not the greatest, but it would have been cool to see them try to coax one of them in. I do believe that next year in the draft, that's what they should be, or in free agency, that's what they should be looking for is a true number 2 wide receiver. You don't have to go after like when Alshon Jeffrey was there. They should not go after them because they don't need a number 1. They need a true number 2 wide receiver, a good guy who can help take pressure off Kelvin, take pressure off Cam, and just Funchess just isn't that.
Yeah.
So in my own opinion, I think they need a true number 2 wide receiver.
And back to Cam Newton, one last stop for me. 2 years ago, it seemed like he was thriving off the energy and just people, doing the dabs and stuff like that. And last year, it just seemed like people hated him, and he was so irrelevant last year. There were so many other quarterbacks on the rise, like Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota, and then there was him, just the team sucked last year. He was so irrelevant, and that brought him down. That brought his confidence down. So last year, obviously another reason why he wasn't great.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Super Bowl hit his ego hard. It hit him in a place he was not. I believe he went into that game expecting to win easily. They got destroyed all
They
game.
were
I mean,
heavily favored in that game too. I mean, the spread at one point was like 10 points for Denver. It was unbelievable. But
so I believe that hurt them last year. That's another reason why I think it is possible that Cam Newton in these next few years could come back to how he was. Maybe he gets his confidence back or something like that. But I believe this year won't be that year. I believe 7-9, 8-8 is about where the Panthers will lie. But
Or
anything
6
else?
and 10.
Yeah, we're 6-10. Anything else you guys have to add? Anything else you want to add on this division? No. All right.
Just want to give a shout out to our camera guy again.
Yeah. Shout out to Stevie. Thank you for watching. All I want to say is like and subscribe if you like what we're doing here. Please comment down below how you feel about Cam Newton this year. How you feel? Will he bounce back? Will he not? Also leave a comment if you have any questions for any of us. It's Ryan, Yamez, Stan Bildick, and Eric Wheeler.
And let us know, too, if you want us to do the quarterback debates as well, the ones I mentioned during the video.
Any show you guys want us to do, just comment down below. We will do them.
Again, as long as they're not outrageously dumb.
Don't do like, is Josh McCown the greatest quarterback of all time? We only 3 of us won't agree with that.
Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye.